So everyone always talks about people moving into the state of Florida from out of it. So you're out of state, you're out of country, and you're trying to come on down or over. Just the general migration situation. And you're New York, Chicago, California, DC, whatever it may be. And I still think Florida is probably the best mousetrap overall. I think you can make at least an argument for it. If you're from these different regions and you said tax advantages, weather, 300 plus days a year you could use these amenities, you say, what are my other options more importantly? I don't know if Texas competes in most ways with Florida as far as what it is to the world. Arizona, I kind of get the Carolinas, but they're minute opportunities if you want to go coastal. So when it all shakes out, I think Florida's, still incredibly compelling. What you don't hear about as often is Floridians moving intrastate. People already living here, moving about. Where are they going to go next? And it's not necessarily in this case, because they're already here, about escaping the cold weather or leaving a high tax, bad financial environment. It's more about lifestyle shifts. People are staying in state, but they're moving differently, I think. On top of that, if you're trying to figure out where you fit into this subject matter or how it would apply to you, or more importantly, where the market in the state of Florida is heading next, this kind of thought exercise, in my opinion, could be really insightful. So in today's video, I'm going to break down 5 different types of buyers in kind of a life cycle pace to try to tell that story. If we have not met, my name is Adam Hancock. I really hope you enjoyed today's video. If me and my team can assist you in any way in the residential real estate market around Southwest Florida, please consider reaching out and let's hop in. Okay, number 1 is going to be kind of our kickoff of the life cycle. So the place I'd like to start, I'm going to call the move out buyer. And what I'm getting at here is basically, these are folks that grew up in the state of Florida. The area that they were based in made sense for their parents' economics, not theirs. They were there with their parents. And then at grade school level, age range, doesn't matter as much the town you live in. But then say you get to 18 years old, and even group in up to 22, 23. So people that are going out of high school, but maybe even have gone past college and are looking what's next. A lot of the areas that people grew up in, myself included, wouldn't have been places that you would intentionally move to if you had a choice at this new age range that you're in now. Naples proper, most of Sarasota, even Lakewood Ranch wasn't really a thing when I was growing up as much. These places are more expensive. They are play first, work second. It's just an odd demographic. Then you have a high average age. So friend group, dating relationships, the idea that you're going to be in a place to meet people of like mind and wants and needs and this kind of thing in the Panhandle or Sarasota or Naples or similar is not going to be as common. And so I think what this demographic is doing as far as effect on locational moves to the state of Florida or intrastate is Tampa. It's making Tampa the belle of the ball, I think, right now. And because if you say I need enough to get my jollies, I need a younger demographic, I need people there for similar reasons that I'm there. It's beginning of work careers. It's maybe pre-kid level, going out more. So you need these restaurant districts. You need these places that many people would come together and do things that are a little bit random. So you need the whole metro to support that, right? Because when you're in school or you're on a team, it's all built in. But the minute you're out of it, the only people you're interacting with are your random workplace and this kind of thing. So having communal districts of all of this allows you not to be working with a colleague being the only network of people that you're in. And that's what I see. And dating is the same exact way. It's that people are trying to get some sort of guarantee that they will get to a place and have what they want and need. And if you said okay, well, Tampa's not the only big city in the state that would provide these outside of the small beach towns. Well, if you look at what they are, Tampa Bay provides a mid-level sized large city. So it's not overwhelming. It's not mini Manhattan. And then it has 3 counties within the metropolitan area that give you city stuff, sports, comedy, all that kind of stuff. A full beach county that gives you that. And it's a little bit, or you can more eclectic, laid back kind of vibe. A suburban element that could maybe hit even a different demographic of that kind of thing, or a multi-generational aspect. And if you look at okay, what is Orlando? What is Jacksonville? What is Miami? What I've been seeing a lot is I think Orlando catches a lot more families than it catches this one. I think you have the University of Central Florida, and age range, a lot of times that happens because people went there. And then I think you do have this bleed over from exiting college that people stay in those areas. And then the Miami and Jacksonville are in these 2 little fringes. And what I see people doing now is they're saying that the minute that I can make a physical choice, or I have the opportunity to say I could live in all of these places, then they're going for central proximity. They're going for a modest size and an area that's easier to understand, more insulated. I think Miami gets a little crazy. It's the land of peacocks. I think it's very, very expensive for most people that want to be affluent enough to live in it the ideal way. I think Jacksonville's cool, but it's very far north in the state. So I had a lot of friends that went to University of North Florida, and it's a cool kind of Panhandle-esque beachy vibe, but a bigger city around it, but you're basically almost in Georgia. So what's happening is all of this is shaking out to say that, Southwest Florida is winning, and Sarasota and Naples are too small to satiate the needs of this demographic, in my opinion. And if you had to pick one spot, kind of the theme, then which one would you pick? And I think Tampa Bay is a very small part of what is going to be a much bigger conversation as this progresses. All right, number two, our next stage, I'm going to call the move up buyer. So this would be, let's say, 26 to maybe 30-year-old, somewhere in that range with shades of gray, where you went and did what I just said with number one, and you went to these areas and you're maybe sitting in like a Hyde Park in Tampa, or you're in like downtown Orlando, and you're one of these cool districts. But now it's starting not to make sense as much. One, you're a little bit more established in your career, so you kind of maybe add a job that's a little bit more firm. You maybe have a little bit more flexibility. Big one is maybe you're in some sort of relationship that is going to involve a kid on the way, you have a young child. Maybe you're renting an apartment right now and you're trying to go to a single family house of some sort because you want a yard and just a little bit more control of your own space. And the areas that you currently live in, as a young person in communal environments, works. But the minute you step outside, or just me and one other person trying to actually purchase a place, it's a completely different demographic that you're competing with. Like the South Tampa area is a great example of this, of where you're saying like you could rent a lot of little cool spots in like northern Hyde Park and stuff, but then you're like, I want to buy, and you see the prices of what historic Hyde Park actually costs, and like, because you're in some of the benefits of the urban environments in cities is that you're in the best, you're close to all the stuff, but you might have two roommates and you might be renting something and it might be apartment based. So for one of the reasons, whether it's like intentional choice of like this area is not going to work for me anymore because I want a suburban master plan neighborhood or I want new construction, or affordability is an issue, is I need to be in maybe the high threes or the fours and here costs $900K or plus. What I think that is affecting right now is the Tampa inner migration is like still a thing that's always going to be there. I mean, I did exactly this. I moved to, I think, St. Pete when I was 22 maybe, and then I got in my later 20s, and then we like went to Wesley Chapel and built a house, and so we did all that kind of hop, and then eventually I came back because I kind of like was able to like leverage that situation, all these kind of things. So we're seeing some of that. So like the suburbs of Tampa that will take the density of people that live around like 3 to 4 exits in Tampa, they'll mostly go north. Tampa Palms, Wesley Chapel, Land O'Lakes. A portion of them that don't like new construction master suburbs are more St. Pete people than Tampa. If you've ever experienced that, it's a different vibe. They'll go to the historic districts above downtown St. Petersburg, like the northeast districts, and maybe not old northeast, but maybe St. Paul Euclid, maybe Woodlawn, one of the areas, Kenwood, that is just an offshoot of the main historic district, so it's a little bit more affordable. One of the really interesting things we've seen, and these are all just examples to kind of get your mind thinking, and obviously I'm like a big Southwest Florida person, so I'm talking about this constantly, but one of the big things we've been seeing that's a unique one is Western Bradenton. So if you grew up in Sarasota and either you like the eclectic nature of it, you wanted to be coastal, it's very hard to live near the water for any reasonable cost. So Western Bradenton is one of the areas that by going northwest of downtown Sarasota, you have a lot more affordability. It's kind of random boroughs of housing, not a lot of new construction. You're up by like Anna Maria Island and Coquina and Bradenton Beach. So a lot of people like kind of will shoot up there for those reasons, or the Bradenton kind of quirkiness itself. We've been seeing a big thing with the move up kind of family-centric buyer, taking that western Manatee County thing to eastern Manatee County, skipping over Lakewood Ranch because it doesn't work quite for number two, and going to like Parrish, Florida is a great mousetrap because you're going to have $250,000 on average cheaper than the suburbs below you, but you have a lot of new construction coming up in a master plan fashion. So like Neal Communities is building a North River Ranch. You have a lot of Lennar, a lot of D.R. Horton, a lot of Homes by West Bay, a lot of these prospective affordable builders that give you maybe an entry point of lower closing costs, higher incentives. An area where someone from out of state that's 60 years old would move to Sarasota and say Parrish might be too far, but their point of view is that it's far from what they're trying to be close to. A family that doesn't have a commuting issue, that's looking for that, like something that hits their demographic exactly, then an offshoot suburb that is cheaper because it's further from town technically actually could be ideal for someone that is leaving an area that it is an upgrade to. So I think that's an interesting way to look at the wrong demographic. It would be awkward for, but the right one, it would be a really big advantage because not everybody agrees that that's the best move. So Western Bradenton to Parrish, great example. Not Brandon, Florida, but what is Ruskin, Wamama, Sun City Center, these areas that get a little further from what everybody deems important. And that's kind of where I see the move up buyer right now. All right, our number 3 on the list is what I'll call the move back buyer. So this is basically me. And a lot of this evolution of what I'm describing, the context is from my own story. But I am almost 39, I have 2 young kids, and I grew up in Sarasota, went to school in Pensacola, moved to North Carolina to like see what was different. Missed Florida, it was 22, so I was like, I don't want to move back to Sarasota. Everybody's still doing the same thing they were doing, and I was like trying to job hop in finance, so I went to Tampa. And then you get to like my age now, and much more independent than I would have been, so not really tied to an industry as much. A lot of people in this category have family in a certain area that still are in that area. You maybe had a young kid, and the independence and all that's really, I mean, I think was really good for, it's hard, but it was really good for like our relationship and stuff like that, because we didn't have anyone to like, I mean, there was no date night watching a kid or any of that. It was like we were all rolled together. But then you have 2 kids, and you get like, you want grandparents to be around, and you just want some stability in that sense. Maybe some family help depending on what you do for a living and how tied you are to that. So this opens up where people are starting to move back to where maybe they left. And now they're in a place where they can enjoy that town much more because they have the means to live in the places where they could afford to live a pleasant way to be in that city. Every area you move to, there's an ideal way that if you could call your shots, this city would be amazing if I could live this way. Certain areas, if you can't, it kind of, the luster of the town could be completely lost, if you look at it. And I mean, I keep saying the Sarasota Naples thing, but these are prime examples of that. Maybe the place everybody would go if they could, but everybody can't because of multiple reasons, but a lot of it's due to a combination of money and independence. So the move back buyer are the people that are moving back to the Sarasotas and the Naples, and probably not Tampa Bay as much, but maybe Boca. But I think this is much more to me is it's Southwest Florida coastal conversation of smaller cities. Where I see the effect here being is the more upgraded suburbs. So what I was looking for was like I wanted to be near downtown Sarasota. Our office is there. I need family style stuff. I like new construction personally anyway. I'm not going to a barrier island to live on it necessarily. I need access to stuff within a kind of a close range. Kids are playing sports. They're in school. I need the best of the suburbs and the best of the town from a proximity standpoint. And this is where like a Lakewood Ranch becomes like incredible because you're gonna have a median cost there like $680 plus. The areas that as you get lower, closer to town, part of Lakewood Ranch, so say you're on like the Fruitville to University, like below State Road 70 line, it's going to come at a little bit more of a premium if you do new construction because of that fact. Because you're going to be competing with people that are 20 years older than me at the same time for different lifestyle reasons. So you got all that, but it's a small conversation because I didn't want to go really southern Venice because it would pigeonhole like what my kids could access. The lower Lakewood Ranch gave me access to Sarasota, all of Lakewood Ranch's things, and I could still work in the city because all of that's within a 9-11 mile one-way commute. Still could shoot over to Tampa if I wanted to because I'm northeast in town. This is where I see this really standing out. Now, I think there's an element in the Lee and Collier County area of people that grew up maybe in Naples proper that would go like North Naples, maybe Estero in that area, but I see that much more of the friends that I had that ended up staying down there. It was primarily related to Florida Gulf Coast being built. Florida Gulf Coast University was built when I was in high school. I think I went to their first baseball camp when I was like a junior in high school. It's very new. So there wasn't really a way you could end up down there at our age until that happened. So they went down there and then you got, okay, there's some retail, like I have a buddy that has been at Enterprise Rent-A-Car for like 16 years. You have Chico's, like I think that black and white market, like their main headquarters down there, stuff like that. But other than that, you start to kind of run out of options if you don't work for the school itself. So I don't see that as much, but this could very possibly be someone that has family in Ponte Vedra or the St. John, St. Augustine area that gives you a really high rated school district, but in a kind of retirement based town. I think you could have just north of like the Fort Lauderdale area. I could totally see this playing as well because you still have enough for 38, 39-year-old and parents that are like in the mid 60s. It still kind of works, and you can live in different neighborhoods for different reasons around each other in the same city. So that's where I see the move back buyer, and I see that influencing the suburban sprawl in the 7 to 12 mile one way from town new construction dense market. Doesn't get awkwardly weird because you might still be working in town, but you can live in a lot more towns than you would have been able to 10 years prior. Okay, number 4 is the move on buyer. So thus far in the video, we've done moving out of the house, we've done moving up to a different house, moving back to your town, and moving on. And this is an empty nester focused conversation. So you're in your late 50s, early 60s, the kids are out of the house, maybe hopefully retirement's on the horizon. Either way, things are shifting again. And in this scenario, you're not looking to leave Florida necessarily. A lot of people want to stay close to their grandkids, the doctors they have established, just that general community thing they built over 30 years. But the 5-bedroom pool home with the upstairs upstairs playroom just doesn't serve you anymore. You know, early phase Lakewood Ranch, built from 95 to 2005. Summerfield, Greenbrook, that River Club, that central area, people raise kids for 20 years there to see what you're seeing today, are in great positions equity-wise. I think Summerfield started selling those homes at like 99 grand, so if you were in there around that time, like, they're in a great position, but maybe they don't need that multi-generational thing anymore. You know, Palmer Ranch, that was the Lakewood Ranch before Lakewood Ranch existed. It doesn't look the same or any of that, but that was the new construction communities that were all really close to each other in South Sarasota, which at the time, that's where everybody was really trying to be. Most people forever thought Lakewood Ranch was too far from town. What it is now, it's an incredible location, but it was the boonies when I was growing up. Anything related to that category, we are now talking moving on to a different stage of life within the same metro, most likely. These aren't people really trying to move really far to another part of Florida. So this is where it opens up options where the previous one of my current demographic, I'd find a little less appealing or a little bit more of a risk for me committing to something, but it would emerge to a great opportunity for number 4. And like Welland Park's a fantastic example. A lot of the things I talk about can be ideal for one and can work for many. And I think Welland's a great idea. It's in South Venice, Florida, so it's 45, 50 minutes one way from downtown Sarasota. Venice is kind of its own town. It was always like junior Sarasota. It's a little bit more laid back, old Florida theme. It was more affordable in perspective of almost all the types of homes because of the fact that people deemed maybe Lido, Siesta Key, downtown Sarasota as prime, Venice as second. And so you got some benefits of that. Now it's a little bit more in the eye of the beholder in 2025 because people now can choose it based on style. But if you grew up in Sarasota, you still have those kind of opinions of places like Venice and Northport. It's also not central Venice. It's like a good 9 miles below the island. So once you're down there, you're down there. You're almost northern Englewood. It's more boutique than Lakewood Ranch. You know, you're talking the district everybody's trying to get into is like 9, 11 total neighborhoods versus the 52 plus in Lakewood Ranch. And then they have some communities with no amenities. They have communities with 200 total homes. But it gives you the best of new construction, gives you master plan, and it gives you less than 10 miles from 4 separate beaches that are, not every beach is equal, but 4 separate beaches, Minnesota Key, all the Venice beaches. And if you're in this stage of life, then no commute necessarily. And you could really enjoy everything going south to Naples and north to all the Sarasota stuff because you're not spending the lion's share of all your activity commuting to any sort of job or spending your time like that. So it really changes everything, changes the pattern of how the town works to you. So I think that's one. I mean, I think the barrier islands start to emerge in this conversation a lot because if you have 2 young kids and stuff, and it's not like no one lives on the beaches with kids, but my parents are in the Siesta Key area, and it's a commitment. I mean, you're there, it's a bottleneck. Schools usually don't come, like the idea that you're just gonna have like a high rated elementary, middle, and high school like on the island so you're always coming on and off. You're like sport, nothing's really there. Lovely when you're there, but it's one of those things where it seems nice, but it doesn't really work for the stage of life you're in. You're not going to the beach every 5 seconds, but if you can, now you can look at living on Venice Island, living on Siesta Key, I think living really close to the bay without being on them. Some of the condominium district in the Quay, if you like the kind of luxury condominium scene. Longboat Key's lovely, especially if you're in the middle of the island down. And then just the other boutique pockets. I think that's what wins here. It's stuff that middle of Sarasota, like parts of Sky Ranch, like the Esplanade community within the Sky Ranch community. It's these like, I don't see this demographic necessarily going 55 and up, like trying to guarantee. I see that a lot more with the relocation buyer because you don't know anyone and you're trying to like really try. So how do I get everyone that's like me that wants my lifestyle? So you're trying to get other people that did the same thing. Locally, I think it's just, you want to live that way, but you don't need an age restriction necessarily. So I think the boutique pockets of areas like that, I don't think this is a conversation where people are getting too far from town. I think it's in the middle of it. A lot of new construction, no frills, like think 2,000 square feet, like the Lazio plan at Taylor Morrison, where you don't need the Palazzo, you don't need Lincoln or the Beacon, but you know, a well-appointed 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath where people could come visit, but you guys don't live like that. You don't have all the coats and extra storage. You don't need the basement and all that kind of thing. In my experience, that's mostly what's happening. So that's filling a lot of the new construction satiation outside of where the families would necessarily go. So it's not affordability and it's not dense multi-generational family stuff as much. It's the pockets of all of that that work for this one. Waterside Lakewood Ranch, Esplanades brand, Welland Park, beachside stuff, individual new construction communities that are coastal, Talon Preserve, Beach Walk by Minnesota Key, these things that in a silo, a family would have to make sense of the rest of the area because of what they need to do with their life, where an empty nester wouldn't. All right, my 5th and final one for today's video, we're gonna go full circle and tie a bow on the conversation, and we're gonna say move out buyer again. So we had a move out of the house as number 1, and now we're doing move out of the state as number 5. So This is people that have been in this town for a long period of time, and it's not necessarily what they want any longer. And it could be multiple reasons for that. One, especially these coastal towns, like what Sarasota's area, Naples were 30 years ago. People got romantic about. It's materially different. All good things change, but there is a level of people that are being like, it's just not, I don't like it anymore. I don't like the amount of people that are here versus we're here. It's just not the same. I think there's that. I think Florida's a melting pot. So yeah, this conversation is always tricky because people get mad when people move there, even though they also move there. But if you've lived here for a long period of time and, there's more people not from Florida than from Florida. So just beliefs, politics could be out of alignment with what you like depending on what happens with the town. All the new construction, you like the land integrity and they're building all these suburbs, whatever it may be. Maybe you're just in a fantastic position of saying that you are in an unbelievable equity situation because you've been here the whole time. All these people moved here, made your house really expensive, but I can't sell a house, take advantage of all that equity if I move to another house in the same town. So one of these reasons you're leaving the state. Where I see the biggest effect here, it's providing a lot of inventory in the Southwest Florida area of resale homes that also, and I talked about this on a video a couple weeks ago, that no one really wants. Inventory is increasing, but people still want new construction. They're going and buying new construction. This stuff's just rising and it's leaving people a little bit in a stuck situation, but it's creating some opportunity around areas that were like in the middle of town, kind of close to everything, not sexy new construction suburbs, but it's providing proximity advantages if you're willing to take on a resale, remodel it, something like that. Most of these people, in my experience, are heading to the coastal Carolinas and maybe coastal Georgia. I don't see a lot of Florida to Texas stuff, kind of the opposite, but this is where I think Charleston, South Carolina, Savannah, Georgia, Wilmington, North Carolina, Greenville, these areas provide a lot of prospective affordability against Florida. If you grew up around some seasonality or you're just tired of Florida's like sunshine all year round, it sounds weird to say, but like some people like some level of not heat all the time, leaves change, maybe you vacation to the mountains and you're just like, let's spend more of our year in Asheville, North Carolina than not. Let's kind of reverse this, spend more of our time there than here. These are the states that I think are winning on the back of the Florida thing. And I think if you look at net migration lists and you say like Texas is Texas and a lot of that's corporate relocations, logistics-based stuff, that's a huge state as well. So the total number as a non-percentage is large. But then you say what else is on that list? And you could say, okay, obviously Florida's always on that list, one or two. And then you say there's always the Carolinas on there. You see some Arizona as well. But what happens a lot of times is I think it's people that stop before they get to Florida because they don't want to commit to, one, the pricing. A lot of it's the seasonality, I think. If you're from an area where you're like, yeah, man, maybe you don't want New York winters every year anymore. You're tired of that. Maybe you don't want it to go completely to Florida. It's like such a big divide. A little bit more docile and that kind of thing, then I could totally see that happening. But moving out of Florida, I also think is responsible for a lot of the migration in total. So if you think about how Florida impacts its own state and other state, just the total ripple effect of migration when it comes to the United States as a whole, it's interesting overall, but that's my number 5. All right, my friends, that is a wrap for today's version of the Florida Relocation Guide. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did and you're not already subscribed to this channel, please consider doing so. A lot of great content planned for the balance of the year. That is the best way to see what's coming next. Beyond that, like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, if me and my team can assist you in any way with any or all of your real estate needs, please consider reaching out. It really doesn't matter about your timeline. I think early conversations in advance of later moves can really make your process, your research, your out-of-state moves more efficient. And our team is right on the back of this kind of analytical-based approach. I own a full-scale residential real estate brokerage called the Sunshine State Co. We can buying, selling, investing. We specialize in relocation and new construction because of the logistics of out-of-state moves, but it's not mutually exclusive to it. And then main hub, the sunshinestateco.com. We have written word versions of the videos if you want a more consumable, quicker, different approach to it. We have audio-only versions of the videos. We have relocation guides that you can look at autonomously. One of the best things we probably put out is a once every 30-day email that's a real manifesto. It gives new construction incentives, new releases in advance, everything we've been working through from the previous 30 days, and it's just real no frills, just bullet point based email. Is a manifesto of sorts. So check that out, and most importantly, thank you guys for taking any of your valuable time to consume my content. We'll see you on the next one.